let's get right into it. Like my guy alluded to, we have to talk about it. College football storylines. The first CFP rankings came out, and I'm going to bring it up right here. And Alex, I'm going to come to you. I think I saw this coming. I
Yep.
don't think anything really surprised me on this one.
No, they did what they normally do, and they went with strength of schedule right off the bat. Which, I mean, if you look at it, 1, 2, and 3 there. I don't know what that team down south has for an actual strength of schedule ranking, but Georgia's strength of schedule ranking, and remember, there's like 130 some odd teams in FBS Division 1.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia's strength of schedule rating is 100th out of 135, we'll say.
Wow.
Michigan's is 111th so far. So these two teams, now obviously they've got their full plate in front of them. I mean, like, obviously after Purdue this week, we go to Happy Valley to play the number 11 Penn State Nittany Lions. Mm-hmm. And then 4 weeks from now, we're playing that number 1 team in Ann Arbor. So we've still got everything in front of us. Georgia, the exact same. But based on strength of schedule, this is really how it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at the 4, so it's Ohio State at 1, Georgia at 2, Michigan at 3, Florida State at 4. And this is kind of how both of us had it. Obviously, a week ago, I had OU. And I must be a jinx because, as you see, they're down to 9th at 7-1 after that loss. But we saw that coming. I mean, UCF took them to the wire the week before.
Yeah.
So, but then, look, you got the 2 Pac-12 teams, 2 teams that have played this year, came down to the wire, and Washington got the dub. And the way it's looking, Washington and Oregon might meet again. How do you feel about that? Washington being 5, Oregon being 6?
I fully understand this, and I actually kind of like it because what they're saying here is there's literally that field goal difference between Washington and Oregon, but you can't really put Oregon above a Florida State.
Right.
So it's got to be Washington 5, Oregon 6 there. To me, that totally makes sense, and I'm in the belief with a lot of people that if they do match up again in the Pac-12 title game, it's actually going to go to Oregon this time and not Washington. So to me, yeah, just based on how they do that, I mean, you see right below that, Texas, Alabama, that matchup, the head-to-head favors Texas there. So I like the way they position this. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. And you start to see some of these teams after 6, Texas, Alabama, couple kind of questions at quarterback. You know, the Sooners, Gabriel has been playing well, but Ole Miss, that, you know, not questionable. He's definitely solid out there, but you start to see some of these teams down the list. Is there any way, and I'm going to keep going down that list, Penn State, Missouri, Louisville, LSU, Notre Dame. Some of these teams got a solid quarterback. Some of these teams maybe not. What are the chances of some of these teams kind of moving up on this list? And are there any realistic chances that, you know, it's more than just the top 6 teams?
There's a couple teams there. Penn State, if they were to beat Michigan and then Michigan beats Ohio State, then Penn State actually gets the Big Ten East title on a tiebreaker from the West Division strength of schedule that they had. So Penn State would have to beat Michigan and need Michigan to beat Ohio State to shoot up those rankings. Missouri, they've got their plate in front of them as well. They got to play Georgia still. If they can beat Georgia, get that division and then win the SEC, they're right in that argument. Probably one of the top 5, 6 teams there. And Louisville with Florida State as well. So there's 3 teams there. I don't like the chances for Ole Miss. They need Alabama to lose again. Alabama has that head-to-head over them. But yeah, to me, it's really 11, 12, 13 there out of this group that has the chance to maybe shoot their way into a legit playoff discussion.
Yep. You go to 13, you look at Louisville, and yes, they've had some quality wins. beating a Notre Dame, a hot Notre Dame team. Obviously, they skunked the number. I don't know if there was. I don't know exactly what Duke was ranked at that. I think they were.
They were
20. They were 20,
I believe,
at the time, and then Louisville, I think, was 18. But they skunked them. But as we know, Riley Leonard still maybe not at 100%, but still, I think they're questionable. I mean, and it's no disrespect to what they've been building over there. But I still don't think that you can move them up. LSU as well. And in fact, I think once you start going to LSU, Notre Dame, Oregon State, Tennessee, you start questioning the credibility of these teams. But if all of the moot point, because you start seeing 2 losses, and it's going to take a miracle for any of them to get up there.
We've never had a 2-loss team in the playoff. So to me, that cutoff is at 13.
So more than
and at 11, 12, and 13, like I said, it's they need to show that massive improvement, but then they need a lot of help in front of them as well. So I think if those 3 teams are representing your conference, there's not a great chance for more than maybe one of them to get in. But yeah, to me, it's mostly that top. I'll throw 7 or 8.
Okay. Yeah. Now we know number 17th ranked Tennessee isn't eligible at all, with all the sanctions and all the things that they got. I don't think they're eligible for postseason play.
They are, because
they are this year.
Yeah, to be ranked, you have to be postseason eligible. They won't rank you if you're not postseason eligible.
Oh, didn't they have the sanctions and all those things off season?
I'm pretty sure it was all like recruiting based and that kind of stuff. I don't think there was any postseason bans related to that. Just want to throw this in there with that whole ineligible discussion there. There's one undefeated team that is not ranked, James Madison of the Sun Belt Conference. They're not eligible yet because there is a window when you jump from FCS to FBS Div 1. They have not yet cleared that window. So you will not see them in a CFP ranking. They'll be all over the AP rankings, but you will not see them in a CFP this year.
My guys. What's going on, Ben? Ben said, as an FSU fan, I would say Washington should be number 4 and we should be 5. Other than LSU, who did we beat? Washington beat Oregon, and the Pac-12 may be better conference right now than the ACC, in my opinion.
So I agree with Ben. I think Washington should be the number 4 team, but with how they're pairing Washington and Oregon, you would then have to put Oregon at 5 and FSU at 6, and they're not going to do that. They're not going to put the 1-loss Oregon over the undefeated FSU. So that's why FSU's 4 for now.
Yeah, absolutely. And finishing off this list, you talk about JMU not being on here. So they're an undefeated. We see Air Force is undefeated, but they're far down. And obviously that's because of maybe the conference and the strength of schedule is not that great. Yeah. Tulane, another one at 7-1, that is down at 24th. Realistically, when you look at an Air Force, when you look at a Tulane, we saw how high Tulane ended up getting at the end of last year. But is there any? I won't even put really Air Force in there because it's just not much chance for them to get it. But what about a Tulane? Is there a chance for them if they stay with just the 1 loss, and they'll need help, but?
No, well, and here's the thing is, I don't think there's any shot for either of them for the CFP itself. But when you look at the New Year's 6, the best group of 5 team gets an automatic bid, which currently it's not based on the rankings. It would actually be Air Force. So I'll look for these two to battle it out for that automatic bid into the New Year's 6. And I personally would love to see Air Force get in. We saw Tulane last year beat USC. I'd love to see what Air Force could do against one of these top conference teams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Been playing good football, great running game, as we know they're known for, but also a stout defense. So, yeah, I'm interested in seeing. Now, there is one question I think we have to ask. We're going to fast forward 365 days. We're coming here. It's 2024. And now we don't just have to stop with the top 4. We can go to the top 12. Alex, this would be your top 12 teams that would be making it if this was fast forwarded 365
This would be
days.
a fun playoff.
Right. So think
Wow.
about this. First 4 get to bye.
Yep.
And then you start having a bunch of these pairings. What do you think we're seeing at this point? Obviously, different players would be on the teams, but what do you think we're seeing in this? Who's the shocker? Who's the one that's gonna maybe somebody that we're not thinking about?
Look at just before I answer the question there. These first round matchups here, the high seed gets to host. It's a home game for them. So you get Missouri going across the country to Washington, Penn State going to Autzen, Ole Miss going to Texas, and Oklahoma going to Tuscaloosa. Those are some fun matchups, and I love this first round being home games because it makes it worth so much more. To see some of those matchups, just even if it was neutral site, I think Washington, Missouri would be a lot of fun. Oregon, Penn State would be so physical.
Big Ten.
Yeah, well, that would be a Big Ten matchup next year already, anyways. Texas, Ole Miss, I think that would be fireworks. I think that's a shootout, very high scoring. Also physical. They've got 2 really good run games as well. And another game that would light it up, in my opinion, Alabama, Oklahoma. These would be 4 fantastic matchups. And it's not clear that Washington, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama would walk away with those games.
Right.
I think there's a debate for Missouri, Penn State, and Ole Miss. I think Alabama would beat Oklahoma right now. But that would still come down to the last possession, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. That toughness of Missouri playing Washington really definitely intrigues me. But again, like you said, we know Oregon is coming to the Big Ten. So then you go to Penn State and Oregon, and it's like, can Penn State we know how quick they are, but are they tough? They've played Michigan State a couple years and really been able to work them when both of them were at the peak of their time. But and then you got Ole Miss, Texas. I'm very excited about it. And then you look right outside the top 12, Louisville, LSU, Notre Dame, Oregon State. Any one of those 4, could potentially hop up in there. And then all of a sudden you got a different group of matchups where you're just like, my goodness, strength on strength. 1 year.
The crazy thing is with that top 12, if this was next year, there's one team in that playoff that isn't either Big Ten or SEC.
Yep.
Which is wild.
Yeah. Good gracious.
Yeah. That is insane. Now remember, with the playoffs next year, as of now, it's still the Power 5 conferences. Their champions get an automatic bid.
Yeah.
So, as of this point next year, that playoff next year, currently one playoff spot is either given to Oregon State or Washington State because the conference has 2 years to try and build back up.
Oh, right.
To at least 6 teams.
Wow.
So if they stay in the conference next year, as it stands now, one of those 2 teams is guaranteed one of those 12 playoff spots.
Wow. See that? They stuck it out, and now they get themselves a playoff spot. Look at that. Craziness. Oh, man. So, look, this is what it is right now. This is our top 4. This will change, obviously. Ohio State, Michigan has to play. Most likely Washington and Oregon will play. Number of these matchups. Georgia plays Missouri this weekend. So stay tuned
probably
for
get
this.
Alabama. If they win that game, it'll be Georgia, Alabama, most likely in the SEC title game. Like Washington, Oregon in the Pac-12 title game. Probably Texas, Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game.
Come on.
A whole boatload of matchups within that top 12.
Yep.
So Michigan, Penn State, like that, yeah.
Man, come on, buckle your seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen, because it's gonna be a bumpy ride. It is gonna be
a bumpy
ride, and I am here for every bit of it.